All right, boys, we are back. Upper body today. Had a little bit of a sick day yesterday, but we're back full force. Going to attack today with full veracity and not holding back at all. So we're at Capital City Barbell. It's a beautiful day. The sun is out. The birds are chirping. Let's fucking get it.
All right, boys, another training session here for you today. And today, I guess I don't have any specific topics that I really wanted to cover, but just came to mind, kind of goes in line with today's session, is just kind of making exercises as hard as you can. I think there is a lot of juice to be squeezed out of kind of taking the hardest variation you can, doing tons and tons of work with it. And obviously, you don't want it to be too far away from the variation that you actually want to demonstrate your highest degree of strength on. So for me, one of the best variations for the bench press over the years, I've developed this. I wouldn't say that I invented the exercise by any means, but eliminating leg drive. So it's not quite a Larson press because having the hips in more flexion, just raising your center of mass kind of off the bench does require a little bit of just more abdominal engagement to stabilize. You're having to kind of stabilize the torso so you have a solid base to press off of, and then also just utilizing a close grip. The close grip obviously will increase range of motion, be a little bit more emphasis on the triceps. But what a lot of people don't realize is the chest is still, if anything, the chest is even being worked harder with the close grip because the main functions of the pec is just to pull the humerus back towards the midline. So the further your elbows go past your torso, the more the pec is having to do to now pull that humerus back towards the midline. So not nearly as strong as I have been in the past on this variation. You can see that was a 405 double. And then I believe I thought I could just will out another, a triple by just, getting a little more hype and trying harder. I really wanted to hit triples today. If I could have done 5 triples, I would have been relatively happy with that being like a baseline for triples. My body weight was, I believe, 253 pounds today. So definitely not big. And the bench press is going to be, in my opinion, the one that correlates the most just to body weight. So the more you weigh, the more you'll press, the more muscle you have on your arms, deltoids, chest, everything, the bigger your back is, even just the bigger your torso and legs are, you just have more stability, you have more power. So you can see I was a little frustrated there with that triple. I had to put the feet down and kind of grind out that last rep, and mostly just frustrated because this is a weight that in the past I've been able to, on this variation, do multiple sets of like 5 and sometimes even sets of 6, and I might have even done a set of 7 with the close grip feet up. So the pressing strength is definitely not where it's been in the past. But later on in the video, I kind of talk a little bit about the mentality when kind of rebuilding or just dealing with your current level of athleticism, really in anything. I think you just have to, or you can be better served by being a little more objective with things, kind of taking into account all the variables that kind of dictate where you are, and just kind of realizing that I talk about it a bit more at the end, but just that everything is constantly moving. You're not stuck. You might have some injuries, you might have some setbacks, you might not be as strong as you used to be, but that does not mean that you cannot progress from there. And also, and I mentioned at the end, it doesn't mean you can't regress from there. I mean, just because 405 for a double is hard for me, it doesn't mean that in a way that I'm not still happy to be able to do it. I'm happy that I have healthy shoulders, healthy body. I'm in relatively no pain, especially on the bench press. Is something that I have dealt with some shoulder pain, some pec strains, some stuff like that. So being able to bench press 405, with no leg drive and a close grip, I have to somewhat be grateful for that just because I have spent a large amount of time and energy and resources just building that strength. And you kind of have to be grateful for the strength you've built and appreciate the time and energy and effort you've put into developing something that has taken well over a decade. So, excuse me, straight into these again. This is going to be a load limiting variation, just in the sense of you're standing up, you're having to deal with a lot more um, unstable positions. You're having to constantly kind of stabilize these dumbbells. You're having to make sure you have core engagement. Legs have to be engaged. You're engaging in a bit of thoracic extension while also trying to maintain abdominal engagement in your brace to avoid excessive amounts of extension. Also, so you can maintain proper balance on the feet. I believe I did 3 sets here, one set of 10, one set of 8, maybe a set of 11 or 12. I want to get it up to where I can do comfortable sets of 15 here. I think that would just, again, one of the best variations, I think, for the bench press once you've already, like I did 5 doubles today. So I still had quite a bit of pressing strength left, but it seems like a horizontal press is a bit exhausted already. So it seems like training the overhead press, but in a slightly more like hypertrophic variation versus trying to do a super heavy barbell press will be a better assistance movement to the actual bench press. So try not to push the weight too heavy on these, trying to keep the reps relatively high, keep it in that, hypertrophy rep range, somewhere around 8 to 15. And eventually I would like to get up to the 120s. And I believe I've done the 120s for like a set of 8 or 10 a few years ago when I was a little bit bigger. So that's one thing too that I think people can get a little bit lost in is just weight gain and weight loss. And if you're constantly in this, which I have been a lot smaller than I've been in years, there's going to be, positives and negatives to that. So for one, the biggest positive is just my quality of life is higher. I can breathe better. I have better cardiovascular health. I sleep better. My resting heart rate is significantly lower. My blood pressure is significantly lower. Almost everything is better, except for the fact that I'm not as strong as I want to be, as I used to be. But in that same way, by building or regaining a lot of these health metrics, it gives me the ability to actually be able to push and get stronger than I was in the past. So there were a lot of things in the past I neglected and things that I, definitely think that I learned my lesson and can do better now. So I'm extremely excited to be able to push in the future. And I mentioned to you guys I'm about 6 weeks out from my next competition. So I will be trying to gain a bit of weight for that. I'm weighing in low 250s, sometimes even under 250 if I'm dehydrated. So I want to be able to push my body weight up to at least 260, maybe even 260, 275 pounds by the time I head to Germany. And I think that will aid obviously my bench press greatly, but also the deadlift. I think I've gotten to the point where my deadlift is definitely not hurt by really being skinny, but I could gain a bit of weight and also not hurt my leverages, and that will obviously help me display just a higher degree of strength. So moved on to some lateral raises, and I don't really count the reps on these. I'm not too worried about weight, and also I'm not too worried about like the strictness of form. I'm more so just going for that deltoid pump. And a lot of people will say, "Why aren't you doing the cable cuff thing? You need to be isolating the deltoid." But I'm treating it more as like a power exercise anyway, so I don't really care if the traps are involved. This is the current physique. You guys can see pretty skinny. I have a little bit of a clip here where I drop some wisdom mid-workout. So hope you guys enjoy. Hope this video was, it wasn't the, longest. I didn't really have a clear topic, but hope it was good. And I will see you guys in the next one.
All right, what's up, boys? So we are in the midst of this session, and not the best session, but I figured valuable takeaway as I'm kind of sulking in the current performance is to not get too attached to where you currently are, just to adopt a growth mindset, to realize nothing is static. Everything is in a constant state of ebb and flow, and you're not stuck where you are. So your current point is really just data. You don't have to emotionally attach yourself to where you are, as long as you realize that where you are is not fixed. You can go up or down, so it can get worse. That's actually, for me, I've heard one of the best ways to achieve success is not necessarily just visualizing success is great, but visualizing how bad failure will feel can be even better. So realizing that where I am now, like for example, I bench 405 for a bunch of doubles, and I've done it for sets of 5 and 6 in the past. But I'm healthy, my shoulders are healthy, and I could get weaker. So I could also get stronger. So just kind of that possibility that where you are now is simply just data and not attaching your ego or your emotions to it. And it's hard. It's a constant practice. I'm pissed off at the session today, but I have to realize it doesn't matter. It's just a stepping stone. We're not going to stay here. Let's get back to it.